clearly upset. I'm paraphrasing, but just barely. You're upset you didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. If you had won the Nobel Peace Prize, how would that have made Americans' lives better?
Right.
And same with this. If you get Greenland, how have you made Americans' lives better? And the answer seems pretty mysterious to me. And as he's focused on that, he's not focused on things that actually would improve Americans' lives, like rising prices, healthcare, and the like.
I think the answer to that was, paraphrasing again, was humana, 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 right? I mean, yes, it's clear that he's distracted, and it's clear that he's not focused on trying to keep the main thing the main thing. I just, go back to, this is something Joe's been talking about the last couple of days. I think we're still trying to really get our heads around this reality, which is that everyone around this table and everyone on the other side of the camera would say, in the post-World War II era, the United States helped create a new international order from which it benefited enormously. It was the dominant country. Nobody benefited more than we did, and it brought enormous benefits, economic, social, cultural, to America. Donald Trump and the people around him do not share that reading of history. And you hear it come out every now and then. There was this interview that Tapper did a couple weeks ago with Stephen Miller about the Greenland thing. And Stephen Miller started to say, he's like, when we have power, we can use it. And when we didn't do that, when we tried to play, basically, again, I'm paraphrasing, but when we were focused on the international system and the international order over these last 50 years, America was just going around the world and apologizing. We got weaker and weaker and weaker. And this goes back to the beginning of our conversation here, which is Trump casting his mind back to some America in which there was a better day. And I think that day for Trump, as he said before, is not the 50s. It's pre-World War II. He keeps talking about the era of McKinley, when America was the strongest it ever was in the world on a relative basis. They fundamentally reject the notion that the world America built after World War II was good for America. And they think there's a better way to build a different kind of world. I think we would all disagree with that. I know Joe would disagree with that. I know every economist I've ever met would disagree with that. But that is their view. That's what they're operating from.
Cross our hearts and hope to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you, as always, for episode number 273. We're going to celebrate the day globalism died. Coming to you on this Thursday night, January 22nd, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That cold open was Morning Joe on MS Now. It's no longer MSNBC. We have a little bit of a shuffling of the deck chairs on the Titanic. That was yesterday morning, just before President Trump gave his historic address to the World Economic Forum. That was John Heilemann, flushed out into the open by the great unmasker, Donald J. Trump. It's really, everyone in politics that I know is seeking agreement. I want to agree with people. I want to get along with people. And look what that's done to us. We hate each other. This is not about agreeing. This is about seeking shared alignments, finding alignment on ideas where we can work together, and understanding that politics is an ongoing process. It's been around since forever, and it'll be around forever. Even in tyranny, there's politics. When politics is going to end when human beings end, which, of course, there's going to be people that are going to jump up in the audience and they're going to say in the back of their mind, that's the whole point of this. And when we got Klaus Schwab on video on a recent podcast saying, hey, with AI, we don't need to have elections anymore because AI knows what the outcome is going to be, tyranny's right here, right now. And I've been talking about this world order and how it came to be for the previous 272 episodes. Well, let me just summarize the important. Let's get to the signal right up front. Caucus in Minnesota is February 3rd. In your state, there is some kind of process where you can get involved. When I say this is the day globalism died, when you see the primary propagandists of globalism flushed out into the open where they have to defend something that no one even talked about. You know, a con. When a con is working, nobody questions the reality of the con. When the con artists have to start defending the con, in this case, the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, when they have to start saying, everybody agrees at this table and everybody on the other side of the camera, everybody a cognitive distortion, because I was watching and I don't agree. When you start using that kind of manipulation, the game's already over. The game is over. Now, it's what's going to replace this game. And you heard Heilemann saying that President Trump believes in the America of the McKinley era. That's missing the point. And it doesn't matter what Donald Trump believes. It's what you believe and I believe. We're the citizens. What I believe was that for the American, life was better when we were self-governing, self-sufficient, self-reliant, self-believing. When we had less to depend on outside of ourselves and more to depend on within ourselves. I think it makes for a healthier life. And people are going to say, well, it was a shorter life. You know, it's not about how long you live, it's how well you live. There's a thing in Japan, in the Japanese tradition about how terrible heaven is, because in the time of the samurai, men died in combat when they were still young and beautiful. And they say, what a tragedy now. People live to be old and they decay. Heaven is full of ugly people. Something to think about. Fear. That's the fear of death. But the paradigm shift that's associated with what Donald Trump did yesterday makes us think about what is next. And what is next is a void. It's a void. Now, they're going to try to tell me, and when I say they, the propagandists, they're going to try to tell me that they have the answer. No, they don't have an answer. They're as confused today as you and I are. They may be billionaires, but they don't know what's coming next. We're in uncharted territory. So for me, what I'm trying to do with you is say to you, this is about personal empowerment. It's about we, the people, regaining our center. It's about we, the people, regaining our faith. It's about we, the people, understanding we live in a Republican form of governance, which means we're sovereigns of our own life. We have nobody to depend on. This whole thing was always a scam. And, you know, we can see it's a scam because it's falling apart right before our eyes. Creates a lot of chaos and uncertainty and some fear. And we do respect minority rights as Republicans. And we do believe that we must be civically engaged. And we believe in the commonwealth of all of our Republican fellow citizens. That's what it is to be a Republican. The participation in civic life is the critical missing element. Because when I don't go and participate, guess who shows up? The people that don't believe in the Commonwealth. They believe that they're the sovereigns of their own lives. They don't believe that any rules apply to them, as a matter of fact. You can tell that from all the thieving and stealing. They use minorities as an identity to exploit to achieve their aims and their goals. They're participating in civic life. They're showing up when we're not, and they don't care about the Commonwealth. They care about getting all the wealth for themselves. So the critical moment that we're in, we, the people, must flood into caucus. We must flood into politics. We must not seek agreement. We must say we're seeking an alignment around shared goals and ideas. We don't have to like each other or agree with each other. We're seeking shared alignment around goals, dreams. The particulars are irrelevant. It's the goal. What is the goal? Freedom. The goal is freedom. What does that even mean? We got to talk about, what does freedom mean? What does it mean for me to be free? And I'm going to tell you, for me, it starts with breathing. Breathing. Because, if you're dead, freedom is kind of well, you can't even consider it. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
I wonder if the dead consider freedom. We'll find out when we get there.
Yeah.
Okay. But my point is, it starts with breathing. With this kind of tension, you start to forget to breathe. When it's this cold, you forget to breathe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sometimes you're walking, you start shaking, you hold your breath.
Yeah. Breathing, it starts with breathing. It starts with centering. I'm thinking about the military members and the people that shoot. They know that breathing is related to, hitting the target. True statement, right?
Yep. True.
Okay.
Controlled breath.
You have to have breath control to stay alive, to be centered, to manage your fear. And breathing exercises are critical. So what does that got to do with caucus? Well, a lot of you never been there. And I'm reading the threads and people don't know what it is and they're afraid about it. It's just very simple. It's your neighborhood meeting on February 3rd. You go. It's not an option. It's like, what is wrong with us? We were given a self-governing country and we don't self-govern. And then we wonder why we're caught in an order that's enslaved us and is robbing us of all of our energy. A vampire system. A system of vampirism. That's where we live. How do we change it? We have to show up seeking shared alignment. Alignment around shared values, not agreement. Wrong idea. We're not looking for friendship. If it happens, it's great. We're looking for alliance. The idea is freedom. You got to go, because I can criticize what Donald Trump is doing as much as I can support him. Politics is ongoing. It doesn't stop with Trump. It's going to continue after the 2028 election. Defending freedom is every day in every way. Do you know the founding fathers, to get to the meeting at the pub, went by horseback? They didn't hop in their car and flip their car on and drive there safely. I mean, the worst thing that can happen in the car is you get in a car accident. Or
Yeah.
you could get pulled over for substance abuse. 2 problems. That's very rare. But imagine getting on your horse and riding to the pub to talk about politics. You might not make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder
The trip
how
to the pub is a whole half-day activity.
it's a half-day activity, and you might have to defend yourself on the way there. You're self-governing. Go, boy, that's tough. Boy, that's tough. Well, everything has a balance. We have to have the toughness as if we're riding on horseback, but we have to have the sophistication of citizens of a postmodern world. Actually sounds a little biblical. If you know the reference, Catalia probably know that reference. She'll put it right into the chat. Anyhow, we have to go to caucus. We have to be involved in politics. You go to caucus on February 3rd. You get elected in your precinct as a precinct delegate. It's a lock because no one's going to show up. Bring your neighbors, okay? Go in, elect each other. A month later, you're going to have what's called a Senate District Convention. You'll be asked to go. You go. Now, caucus is an hour. Your Senate District Convention is at most 4 hours. Now you're into this for 5 hours. At that Senate District Convention, run for and get elected as a state delegate to the state Republican Party convention. There's 2,200 delegates. Guess what? You're going to get to endorse, to vote for who represents you in the upcoming midterm election. You're going to have a say in how the party is governed. Now, between the caucus and your Senate District Convention, your Congressional District Convention, and your state convention, which happens every 2 years, right? It's an hour for caucus. It's 3 hours maybe 4 hours for your Senate district convention, another 4 hours for your congressional. So now you're into it for 9, 13, 14, 15. For 15 hours this year, you can defend faith and freedom in Minnesota or whatever state you're in. And we played on the last podcast the films of those folks tearing up that sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going on here? I mean, really, what do we think is going on? What is really at play at base? Because the system is so big. It's so easy to get caught up in this fight or this dynamic or that. You know, it's really, are we going to have a country where I am allowed to have faith in Christ or not? That is really what is on the table. And if you're Christian and you're not willing to fight for that, okay, I get it. You know, politics is messy. It's bad people. I'm a citizen in heaven. I personally, on my judgment day, which is coming, I am not going to my maker if that's what happens, because, you know, nobody came back and told me. I'm just talking about lore and legend, and I'm going to get judged. And someone might ask me, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Because, see, people believe historically, going back to the way back, that there's a prosecuting angel and a defense angel. And they're going to argue the case of your life. And this is, you know, metaphor. This is a story. But think about your last minute of consciousness. Did you do anything of note in this life? It's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're dying, right? And here's what they've told us recently about dying. This whole brain death thing is a scam to get your organs. Actually, the way it actually works is your body stops working and your brain lingers on. Consciousness lingers on for quite a long period of time. We have to sit there and review your life by yourself. And oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
For everybody. The most profound good person, when they are sitting there, because they're going to focus on the bad. You know, God, I wish I hadn't done that. And the most virtuous people in presentation could actually be the most skullduggerous at some point in their life. We just don't know it. But if you go and involve yourself in a process to protect the New Jerusalem, which is the United States of America, if you go and give over to republicanism and participate in civic life, and I don't mean the Republican Party, because you can do this in the Democrat Party too. If you're watching me and you're on the left, it's both parties. It's one party and it's corrupt to the bone. And what has happened this week? The corruption was about creating one world government, and Donald Trump, man, he took a wrecking ball to that. Let's play number one.
What the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries. Why would you do that? Why would the United States of America, which has oil and natural gas, try to convert to all electricity? China does not have oil and natural gas. Electricity and electric cars make perfect sense to them. That is practical and logical. So the point I want to make, and I want people to think about, is that America First is the job of our government to take care of our workers, to make sure their lives are better for it. And then don't be America alone, right? But be America first. And I would suggest that policy is something for other countries to deeply consider, to take care of their own, and then we will work out wonderful relationships between us. But I want to point out, when America shines, the world shines. Close your eyes and think of a world without America in it. It becomes pretty dark, pretty darn quickly. When America shines, right? And everyone said, oh, you're going to do all these tariffs, you're going to destroy the world. The world's stock markets are up. Which ones of them? All of them.
Can I bring you back to Greenland?
Well, that's Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce here, and a classmate of mine when I was at the university back in the 70s, addressing the World Economic Forum. And now everybody knows what the World Economic Forum. This organization has existed for 50 plus years and was alluded to in the James Bond.
Is referenced in James Bond?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I thought they would have made some clever name for it.
They did.
Oh, okay.
They called it something else because, you know, they changed the name so the innocent were protected.
Yeah.
Spectre. This is Spectre. If you know Spectre and James Bond, those are the bad guys.
Let me add that to my list.
Spectre, James Bond. This is Spectre, and nobody really knew who this organization, you know, you never heard of the World Economic Forum until recently, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, never heard of them.
And because I'm a businessman, I mean, I've known about them for a long time, and I've been watching them for a long time with increasing horror and rage. And we've played many clips over the course of the previous podcasts about the World Economic Forum. And I want you to just think about Donald Trump went there and was the keynote speaker. He was the keynote speaker. He addressed this group of people, which is the top business leaders and political leaders from throughout the world, and it's in Davos, Switzerland. And he addressed them for 91 minutes on Wednesday morning. And I listened to the speech, and there's no clips because the whole thing is a clip. I mean, everybody can just go get that speech, 91 minutes, and he just picked right up where Howard Lutnick left off. And he said, every place I go in Europe, there's windmills. I'm paraphrasing. There's windmills. And in the United States, windmills. And all the windmills come from China. He goes, you know what? The Chinese don't use windmills. They just produce them, and stupid people buy them. These people rolled into the center of world power. I'm talking about the United States delegation, Bessent, Lutnick, and Trump, and insulted these people to the core.
Do you need tires? Go to tireget.com, TIREGET.com. The link is down in the description. I don't know about you, but I don't like waiting in a tire shop or talking to a salesman. TireGet makes it so easy I can order the tires right from my couch. Seriously, it's one website, a few clicks, and the tires are delivered right to your installer. You drop off your car, and boom, your tires are on. Plus, you get to support Free People Radio. So not only do you get tires, but you also get to support your favorite show. We'll even throw in an extra little deal. Just enter promo code FPR in the checkout for an extra 3% off.
And wow, let's listen to number 2.
We move from the concept of freedom as the fundamental protection of the individual against the intervention of the tyrant to the concept of liberation through state intervention. On this foundation, wokeism was built, an ideology of monolithic thinking upheld by various institutions whose purpose is to penalize dissent. Feminism, diversity, inclusion, equity, immigration, abortion, environmentalism, gender ideology, among others. These are all various heads of the same beast, aimed at justifying the state's expansion through the appropriation and distortion of noble causes.
Well, that's called The Con's Coming to an End. when world leaders are standing up on the stage and exposing the many, what did he call it? The many heads of the same beast? Something like that?
Yeah.
Right.
It's all part of the same beast.
Yeah. Well, when they start talking about the beast, we're getting a little biblical, aren't we? And, this is creating a lot of change and a lot of anxiety. And people are going to say, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? Well, let's listen to what it means to Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. Number 3, please.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. Argue that middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor or to combine to create a third path with impact. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
Well, there he talks about it's a rupture. Well, what's rupturing? What's rupturing is the con of globalism, of one world government. At least the way it was put together by the group of neo-colonial European elites with their U.S. allies, aimed at creating an extractive mechanism where the citizens were inventory to be monetized from birth till death. See, I don't know what's on Donald Trump's mind, and I don't really care from this perspective. I care what's on my mind. And what I want is my own personal empowerment. I want my own relationship with God or the Force or Allah or Yahweh or Christ, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to tell you, that's turned into a scam. Christ said, I'll send you a comforter. He'll live inside you. Good enough for me if you got it. You know what I mean. All these institutions have been corrupted. The church is corrupt. The synagogue is corrupt. The Lutheran church is corrupt. I mean, all these institutions, because we're living in a fallen world and we've lost our self-reliance and our self-sufficiency, allowing us to be exploited, and we don't even show up to say who's going to do the exploitation. At least Donald Trump now is the exploiter in charge, which is I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I'm just saying right now, but he's got real ID coming. They got the digital currency coming. The technocracy, the digital age is coming. And one could say we're better having an American-centric digital age than a globalist, United Nations-run digital age. That's tremendous progress. Now the baton's going to get passed to a new generation of leaders. And I'm going to tell you why. Please play number 4.
We believe that outside the United Nations, this is the largest gathering of global leadership of the post-COVID period of time. For many people, this meeting feels out of step with the moment. We hear all about the elites. And how does that play out in an age of populism? How does an established institution make a difference in an era of deep institutional mistrust? And there's some truth to the critique. I believe in this forum for a long time. I certainly wouldn't be leading this if I didn't believe that we can change and make the world better. But it's also obvious that the world now places far less trust in us to help shape what comes next. If the World Economic Forum is going to be useful going forward, it has to regain that trust.
And of course, they will shape shift and change their presentation to put everybody who has woken up back to sleep to appear who they're not, as they've done since the 60s. I mean, these people are only prominent now because they thought they won. See, they were always there going back into the 60s. This group of heads that have money, that are the remnants of the colonialists with all of their ill-gotten gains, they have been running this thing Spectre on James Bond. I mean, this is and he said, this is the largest gathering other than the United Nations. No, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum are completely integrated. They're integrated. And they've been running things for a very long time. And the only reason you're seeing this coverage is because they thought they won. And guess what? They didn't win. And why are they not winning? Because a bunch of gun-toting, Bible-thumping cretins in the United States of America said, what did Obama say? Clinging to their Bibles and their guns? Hillary Clinton, the deplorables, that group of reprobates, of which I'm one of them, stood up and said, you're not going to rule over me, partner. I'm an American citizen. Get off of my blue suede shoes, please. Because, see, I've spent a life developing personal power. I know how to breathe. We have to get back to the fundamentals, which they don't teach us in school. Did you spend 2 years learning how to breathe in school?
No.
Probably should be kindergarten, first and second grade. Students, we're going to just practice breathing today. Everybody sit down on the floor, and I'd like you all to see, no, sit down, Paulie. Paulie, sit down now. This is good for you. I'd like you to relax, Paulie. Please, sit down. Sit down or I'm going to make you sit down. Paulie, right now. See, we don't even talk to Paulie like that anymore, do we?
No.
No, I would. I'd sit Paulie down and tell him to shut up. And Paulie, close your eyes. Close your eyes, and I want you to see a white light right in between your belly button and your asshole, right in the center there. It's the center of everything. It's called Dantian in the Asian. It's your center point. I want you to see a white light there. Just focus on that white light. And I want you to breathe into that light and expand it and contract it. We'll work on that for about 3 months. And then I'm going to say, Paulie, now that you see the white light, I want you to move it up your spine. There's another point in the center of your back. See that point and make the light expand and contract there. Bring it up to the base of your spine. Then 3 months later, there's one at the base of your skull. And then take it up to your crown point. And then bring it down the front of your body. See, this is like take a year to learn this stuff because you have to build these connections. They don't happen naturally. I mean, unless you're living in nature. Oh, if you're living in nature, I like if you don't have too much on your mind, but where am I going to get my next meal? This stuff comes very naturally if you're living in the forest. Because once Paulie and Susie and Mohammed, once they can do this, they're personally empowered. Once you really teach them how to breathe. But they don't teach that. Why would they teach that? Mm-hmm. Because you'd be setting up a society of completely free people. They're not dependent anymore. No, what they teach them is how not to breathe. How not to breathe. Keep quiet. Do what you're told. Show up at 8. Leave at 4. Do your homework, which is meaningless. They don't teach the real life skills which would free people from dependency on the system. And where is the true dependency? The ultimate dependency is on the fear of death. So instead of empowering people about how to live, we terrify them about how to die. That's why it's a vampire system. So we can make big changes, and we have to, as individuals, be self-empowering. The first step is to know how to breathe. That's how you manage the fear of going to caucus for the first time where nobody knows you and you don't know what's going to happen and you're afraid you don't want to go. Well, when you know how to breathe, you know how to manage your fear. And boy, we need to. Let's play number 5.
Today we had the honor to protest with Nikema Armstrong and the Racial Justice Network. Just like Jesus did, we went into that church and we flipped tables peacefully.
You said that you asked the Lord to stay in your house, to pray for you on your house in order. That is correct.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment, exactly. Renee Good! Renee Good! We have a duty to win! We must love and support one another!
30 million Christians did not vote in the last cycle here in the United States of America in 2024. 1 million Christians are alleged to have not have voted in Minnesota. 1 million Christians didn't vote. Hey, you know what? These people came into a church and they desecrated a sanctuary. They call churches a sanctuary because this is precisely the place that this kind of thing is not supposed to happen. And look how sophisticated these folks are. These are godless Marxists using the stories of the Bible and the words of the Bible to achieve one world government. Because just because Donald Trump has gone into the synagogue of globalism, which is the World Economic Forum, and flipped over the tables and called the people stupid and laughed at these people, it doesn't mean that the fight's over. This thing is a glacier that has been moving forward for hundreds of years. And just because the top is, having trouble, they still have a lot of influence, which we're going to talk about because it's all about the money. And they got these folks funded at the grassroots level to go into a sanctuary and desecrate an altar. And then this guy says, we're like Christ going into the temple and turning over the tables. When Christ went into the temple and turned over the tables of the money changers, he was doing it to reclaim the temple for people of faith. That's not what these folks were doing.
No.
They were not interested in reclaiming the faith. They're just saying, hey, contradiction, you people don't have any faith, and we're going to shut your service down. Because why do we go to church? Well, why would we really go to church? I mean, what's the point? Now, if you go once a week for an hour, that's ritual. But if you went to church every day, like the Muslims pray 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews pray 3 times a day. How often do the Christians pray?
Yeah, I'd say daily.
Do
Before
they?
a meal and go to bed. Someone that actually does that, not all of them, no.
Well, we need to pick up the pace.
No.
That starts with breathing, because God breathed life into Adam. Breath is critically important to faith. So you go in and you start screaming. I saw in that clip, a mother was holding a child and comforting them because they were scared.
Mm.
Don't breathe well when you're scared. You traumatize children doing that, which of course is the point. And they're screaming freedom, which is not what they want. They don't want freedom. They want Marxism, the abolition of freedom. Because what is Marxism? It's worldwide socialism when the risk of freedom is managed by insurance companies and monetized so that everybody comes out exactly the same. I'm not free to be me. That's the whole point of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is to make us all the same. And you know who the primary driver of DEI was? One of the primary drivers was Larry Fink, who is now the chairman of the World Economic Forum. He's taken over for Klaus Schwab. Change. Klaus is retiring to his villa in the mountains with his billions of dollars, but he is a communist. He's a billionaire, but he's a communist. Got a bust of Marx right on his desk, but he's a billionaire. This is what we have to understand. Communism, we think it's about everybody's got the same money. No, it's about destroying faith so that people can be ruled, because people that know how to breathe can't be ruled. You can't rule a person who's managed their breath. It's impossible. They won't allow you to rule them, because through breath, we connect to spirit. And if we put down sin, guess what will happen? If we know how to breathe and we ask for the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, to come live within us, I will testify that in fact happens. That's why I got so many Jewish people don't like me. They don't like me because I talk about the Holy Spirit. Because, see, that's not part of the Jewish experience. Because the Jewish experience is a warrior way where 10 people have to come together to get anything done. And that's a good way to get corrupted. And Christ said, nah, it's all individual. If you believe, you're good to go. And I'm going to send you a comforter. And that's a big movement forward in the history of the world. And we need to get that comforter by breathing and by asking, by listening, by asking, by looking at our own conduct and saying, wow, how could I ask for a miracle when I'm mired in the chain of sin? If you want to meet God, if you want to see the face of God, you have to give up the addiction to sin. That's why this whole thing is one big system, and we get caught up in Democrats versus Republicans. It's almost hilarious, right?
I started laughing at it. It's comical at this point.
It is comical. It's completely comical. And who are these Marxists that are out in the street? They're funded by the people that fund the World Economic Forum. It's the same people. We just don't see the connections, although I've been trying to draw it out for 272 previous episodes, and I'm going to redouble my effort, because the drivers of this World Economic Forum are the former European colonial empires that lost their empire between World War I and World War II. The United States was erected as the new muscle of the world with the dollar system, but those colonial empires infiltrated our economic and our academic life. And by infiltrating the academic, they were able to implant into the minds of our children Darwinism and Marxism, which you saw play right out in that desecration of a holy altar. And unfortunately, because they've also penetrated the church and promoted an image of Christ and of God, which is all love all the time, kind of leaving out all the fire and brimstone stuff, because, no fun to come up with that. Like, if you sin, you're going to get punished. If you get punished because you sinned, that's God loving you. I think that Scripture is turn the body over to Satan that the soul might be saved, or something along those lines. This stuff is a little deeper than our brains can process. But I know every time that I've been punished, it's been for my own good, because all things function for good. And we're going to have to start to look at this now to get into these caucuses and to get into this political process. And why do you see them talking about white Christo nationalism? Because the academics are way out in front of what's going to save this country. This country is not going to be saved unless Christians go to defend their faith. Freedom will not be saved. Faith will not be saved unless Christians are willing to fight back against this. And the academics know it, so they say, oh, this is a white Christo nationalist movement. This is racist. This is patriarchal. Everything about this is wrong. And they're out in front of it because the reaction to a group of Marxists destroying a church service and desecrating an altar should be Christians going, wait a second, what's going on here? Maybe we need to organize. Maybe we need as Christians to be involved in the political process. Oh, that means it's a white Christo-nationalist process. Well, I'm looking for aligned interests, not for agreement. There's a lot about white Christo-nationalism I'm not okay with. For example, anti-Semitism or racism. I'm not okay with that. That's not Republican. But I'm seeking aligned interests because right now, the Marxist, godless, communist, digital age, technology, digital ID, CBDC people are inside the wire of this country. And what did Donald Trump really do at Davos? And what was this Greenland thing all about? Well, I'm going to tell you, we have a political class here. And when you look up the voting record of Republicans over the last 8 years since Donald Trump showed up in 2016, hey, they all look pretty MAGA because they're all pretty afraid of Donald Trump. But you only need a vote here or a vote there for them to bend the arc of history back in the direction of globalism. For example, John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, Republican. People like him. I don't know why, but they like him. Maybe he looks like he should be on Mount Rushmore. I don't know. But he's from South Dakota, which is a center of banking and credit card administration because they've set the laws up in South Dakota to make it a very safe haven for credit card companies to operate. And he's come out and he said, what is this thing with Donald Trump trying to cap the interest at 10%? That doesn't work. See, that's his job. He's just going to pop up out of his rabbit hole and subvert that one idea. And then we got the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act, which is very important. It's passed the House, but it's gummed up in the Senate. What is the SAVE Act? Do you know what the SAVE Act is there, Mr. Tanner?
I do not. I've heard it, though.
Well, that would be a lot of people. It's about saving America by making it mandatory for anybody that votes to prove that they're American citizens. Oh, that's a federal deal. So we've got all these senators who refused to co-sponsor the SAVE Act. John Barrasso, John Boozman, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Deb Fisher, Chuck Grassley, Mitch McConnell, Jerry Moran, Lisa Murkowski, Pete Pickett, Mike Rounds, John Thune, Majority Leader, and Todd Young. They're not down with this SAVE Act. And, you know, these people are so sophisticated because the system's so big. They have a great rejoinder to why they're not sponsoring it. Election integrity should be handled at the state level, except when 27 out of 50 states refuse a federal government request to review the voting records, forcing the government to sue. Minnesota is one of those states. Do you see all this? Do you see all this fraud? Do you see all this fraud with the money?
Yeah, I see that fraud. I don't ever hear anything about Minnesota getting sued, though.
Oh, yeah. No, the federal government has sued to get the voting records. And there's been great people like Rick Weibel and Mike Lindell and Phil Parrish. And there's been a lot of people that have been working on this voting thing since 2020 because they knew something was wrong. And there's a lot of people that went into politics because they knew something was wrong. And I'm one of them. Because we've got this fundamental judgment that the country has free and fair elections. And if they're willing to steal, I mean, we had the thing with Fitz saying 20 trillion at the Department of Defense, but we got, and that's an allegation, but we got Donald Rumsfeld that we played on 9/10 going up in front of the cameras, the Secretary of Defense saying, oh, geez, so sorry, we can't find 2.3 trillion. Can't find it. I mean, we're talking about intergalactic robbing now. So is it so far for us to look at all this robbing and stealing that's going on all over everywhere and not presume that possibly our elections are not working right? I mean, people that'll rob from it, and now we're going to blame it on the Somalis. Get off of it. Are we to the point now that we recognize that this is an organized takedown of American citizens to enslave us? And Donald Trump recognizes it. He walked right into the belly of the beast in Davos, Switzerland, and said, hey, you people are stupid. We're not doing this. Lutnick, where's the world without America? Well, you're not taking us down. And why would they want to take us down? Because if there's one country left with freedom, everybody's going to look to it and want to be in that same free space. Well, it's about more than country. Why was America great? Why does Trump look back at the time of McKinley? Because we were a nation of shopkeepers and a nation of farmers. Everybody was self-reliant. Forget about the structures of government. Look at the well-being of the citizens. Oh, well, they died quicker because they didn't have medical care. We got it now. If we could make that medical care responsive to the needs of the citizens, got it now. We didn't have it then. We can make a much more human-centric, human-serving world if we show up at caucus and start dealing with our own backyards. This change is not going to come from the top down. When it comes from the top down, the end point is clear: corruption. You know, you can have this kind of corruption stopped here, another kind of corruption is going to pop up there. The only way corruption is mitigated, it will not be eliminated, is when we, the people, give up our corruption. And baby, you know what your corruption is. I know what mine is, or has been. I know what I've done. Now, there's people out there that can lie to themselves, and I know people like that. People who say, I've never violated constitutional law. What about spiritual law? Or people who say, they never caught me, therefore I never did anything illegal. I mean, there's a lot of BS out there. But if we really devote ourselves to prayer and meditation, and we understand that prayer and meditation has been corrupted because we're more than just talking. We're more than mind, body, and spirit. As soon as you start thinking mind, body, and spirit and breaking it into pieces, you've diminished yourself. You're a unity. But to study that unity and how it works, we could pick an area like our spiritual life and our health would improve. Or we could pick our physical life and our spiritual life might improve. We've got to devote ourselves to self-empowerment. We have to be ready to go the distance in a battle for our souls. And for those, and this is another thing which I said on a podcast with Royce, I don't want to hear anybody say, I'm doing it for my kids, because that's a BS story. Do it for yourself. Let your kids take care of themselves, okay? Do it for yourself. And the rest of the good things will just follow. And I'm saying that we elect these people in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. And for example, this SAVE Act, which is critical to this midterm election, and it passed in the House and it's gummed up in the Senate because we don't have enough votes. There's only 53 Republican senators, and there's something called the filibuster and cloture, and this is Senate tradition, that if you don't have 60 votes to end a debate, a bill never comes up for a vote. And there's all this pressure now that's being put on the Senate to end the filibuster, because it's not in the Constitution, it's tradition, to protect minority rights. And it's getting a little tyrannical, isn't it? And why is it getting tyrannical? Why is it getting tyrannical? Because I did not participate in politics until 2020. That's why it's tyrannical. Because the good people watched football on Sunday, went to work on Monday, went to get a beer on the way home, and then went to sleep after watching some television. We didn't defend the freedom of this country for the last 100 years. And we thought voting was our civic duty. We've let the country go to hell. So to get it back into the center of the road from where it is, to jerk it back into the center, it's very tyrannical, because the tyranny used my lack of participation to do everything in a legalized process. Like when you lose control of your universities, which were dedicated to teaching people how to do what? Be faithful. Go look at the mottos of all of our elite academic institutions. I went to a Quaker university. It wasn't Quaker when I went there. but it was originally a Quaker institution.
Yeah.
These were religious schools. They're not religious now. Why? Because the parents really don't care about the kids. They care about the kids getting degrees so they can make money, so they can be proud. Oh, my son, Johnny the doctor. Oh, screw your son, Johnny the doctor. Look what he learned. He learned how to be a Marxist doctor. Good work, Dad. Here comes winter. In winter, good tires aren't a luxury. They're a necessity for safety. At TireGet.com, getting your winter tires is quick, easy, and priced right. With TireGet.com, you order online, install right by your house, and stay safe on the road this winter season. Good work, Mom. Good work. My daughter, she got a degree in Marxism. Nice work, Mom. I was reminded today that 44% of women vote Republican. Well, that doesn't mean they vote conservative, or that doesn't mean they vote America first. It means they vote for Republicans, and not all Republicans are the same. Look at this. We got Barrasso, Wyoming, Boozman. Is that Arkansas? Bill Cassidy, Louisiana. Susan Collins in Maine. Deb Fisher, Nebraska. Chuck Grassley, Iowa. Mitch McConnell, Kentucky. Jerry Moran, Kansas. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska. Pete Ricketts, Nebraska. What's wrong with Nebraska? Mike Rounds. You know that asshole Don Bacon is from Nebraska. What's wrong with Nebraska? It's like asking what's wrong with Kentucky. Mike Rounds, South Dakota. John Thune, South Dakota. Hey, what's going on in South Dakota? Todd Young, Indiana. Not all Republicans are alike. Every one of the Democrats, every single Democrat is opposed to the SAVE Act, because if people have to show up and identify themselves as citizens, whoa, boy, that would be racist, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be racist if you had because it's racist. It's voter suppression, because black people are too stupid to have identification. Man, talk about the poverty of low expectations.
Yeah.
God, it's awful.
Who said that? Again?
Everybody in this game says it. It's a
Yeah.
racket. Black people are used to justify an ever-expanding federal government because they can't take care of themselves, because they were slaves. They're slaves, can't take care of themselves. We have to take care of them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you take care of people, they give up their dignity and they let themselves be taken care of. That's why I don't care what Donald Trump thinks when he says it was better in the McKinley era. To me, it's not about government or colonialism. It's about every American was self-sufficient. You know, we went into that Great Depression. I think over 50% of the people were food independent. Man, we have a Great Depression now. Oh, and still 10 million people starved to death during the Great Depression. Do you know that?
Yeah, I knew that there was a lot of people that didn't make it.
They didn't make it. And half the people had their own means of production. They had a little dirt-ass farm with chickens. Now, depression? We better print money. Got to stay away from that. So we got these RINOs in there. And they're hiding amongst us, and they just have to take one or two votes here or there. They're going to be with the America First agenda. They're wearing red hats. They got the MAGA hats on. They're going to jump up, and then that gets complicated because some of them will convert. So this is why I'm not a supporter of the death penalty, because you never know, really, what's in their heart. But that's another podcast. I know that I just was on with a podcast with Royce, and he said the people that were involved in perverting the elections, hang them in the public square. So, I mean, we don't all agree about everything, but we have an aligned interest, Royce and I. We want freedom. We want freedom. We don't agree about everything. We have an aligned interest, maintaining the freedom to have faith in God. That's a very powerful aligned interest. Can you align with me on that interest? Well, I guess if you don't believe in God, you don't have that shared interest.
No.
So I'm going to say to you, if you don't believe in God, before you give up on that, please learn how to breathe and give up your addiction to sin. I know the Republican Party told you pornography and prostitution are legal. I know they told you gambling is legal. I know they told you drugs is legal. And many other things is legal, which is forbidden. Well, maybe if you just kind of pulled back on that a little bit and experimented with taking a chain, maybe turn it into a binder, see if there's some progress in your life before you give it up. Experiment. Don't take anybody else's word for it. Man, somebody told you there was no God. Maybe it was your mother. Maybe it was your father. They didn't believe, and you took their word for it. Wouldn't you like, on something so important as faith, to run your own experiment? And I have to tell you, it could take you a few years to get there. It's not like you say, oh, God, appear to me. Man, if that happens for you, God bless you. That kind of happened to me. I wasn't looking for it. I mean, that can happen. But please do your own experiment. Please read the new physics about the multiverse. Please understand that even our scientific understanding of these issues are way past where our cultural understanding is. That we have something that is not material to preserve, and that Marxism is purely a philosophy of materialism. That's why it's about economics. That's a cover story. It's here to abrogate faith. That's its mission on earth. And then we get these RINOs that are in there, like John Thune in South Dakota. Man, he won't co-sponsor the SAVE Act. And he's the Senate Majority Leader. It'll never come up with a vote unless we pressure these people. They have to be pressured. And there was a big case this past week with Chuck Grassley, who came into the Congress with Ronald Reagan in 1981. The guy's 94 years old. He's been in the Senate since 81. You think he's skullduggerous? I mean, you'd have to be skullduggerous, but he's 94. Who wants to look at a 94-year-old and say, you're as corrupt as it comes? I don't know. But how do you stay in the Senate from 81 to 2026? I mean, you got to make some sacrifices along the way if you had any principles when it started.
Yeah.
Okay? So he was pressured this week because he put out a letter saying he couldn't support the SAVE Act because he's a believer that the states should administer elections as it says in the Constitution, which has been exploited by states like Minnesota who have gone their own direction. Well, he got a lot of pressure for that letter. And now all of a sudden he's saying, hey, no, wait, I'm with the SAVE Act. See, people need pressure. It's not just showing up at caucus. You got to get in there and hammer these people and turn them into patriots. Turn them into patriots. Give them a backbone because they're professional politicians. They're professionals. Let me show you a professional politician. Please play number 7.
If you are undocumented and you have been in the country for more than 5 years, you do not have a criminal record. You're working and paying taxes. You can come out of the shadows with no fear and apply for the dignity status. That means they will pay a fine of $7,000 over 7 years, buy their own health insurance with no access to any federal programs, and contribute 1% of their salary to the United States Treasury. That is $50 billion plus. Just do the math. In return, they will never be deported. They will be able to go home for Christmas or to go bury their mother and come back to the United States to continue working and paying taxes. It gives them a dignified life in the promised land.
Okay, I got a question for you, Tanner. Got to put you on the spot, young man.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is?
No clue.
I'll give you a name. This is a congresswoman from Florida, from Florida 27. Her name is Representative Maria Elvira Salazar. And I have a question for you. You just heard what she had to say. Democrat or Republican?
I'd say Democrat.
Right. She's a Republican.
I could see the Republican twist in there, I guess, but.
And it's a very, very, very centrist thing she's doing. She's saying, hey, if you've been here for more than 5 years, you didn't come in with the invasion wave that Biden cut loose, and you need to be a dignified person, and we need to honor you. And she's she's good looking, got kind of a husky voice. She looks pretty stark. That's a Yiddish word. She's a starker, or a Chinese word. She's a very young woman, she's strong. She emanates a kind of strength. And she represents a moderate Republican. She's a moderate Republican representing a Miami area district, which of course has a lot of these immigrant people. And she voted with the Democrats for the extension of the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. So she's a supporter of Obamacare, Republican, because she wants, her constituents to get free health care because, of course, they're dependent on health care. And I'll bet if we look closely, she's probably taken a lot of money from the health insurers. But hey, that's just a guess. I haven't looked it up. She voted with Liz Cheney on the January 6th commission. She was one of only 35 Republicans who voted to establish the independent commission to investigate the January 6th incident, insurrection by the left and Fedsurrection by the right, another polarizing issue. She voted to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene from her committee assignments. She's a strong opponent, or she's a strong advocate for gun control.
Really?
Oh, yes. She's a woman.
And Florida voted for that?
Oh, of course. So, and you go into this. Oh, the Global Respect Act. She was one of only 6 Republicans who voted with Democrats to impose visa sanctions on foreign officials violating LGBTQ plus human rights abroad. See, she's a woman. She's a woman leader, and she has a different kind of center of gravity. And she's a great candidate. She's elected in Florida. But when it comes to critical issues, she lines up on the other side of the football with the Democrats. Not everything. I mean, if you look at 90% of her votes, she's a solid America firster. But when it's necessary, she pops up out of her rabbit hole and plays with the other side of the football in a battle for the future of the republic, of my freedom, of my ability to practice my faith. But she's very, very beautiful, and she's very well spoken, and she looks like a strong leader. And she reminds me of Michelle Tafoya. Now, I think Salazar might be a better politician in terms of what she knows than Michelle Tafoya. Michelle Tafoya pops up, and you know why she popped? Did you see Michelle Tafoya? You don't know who she is. You're too young. Well, let me tell you, when I was your age, this will surprise you, but maybe not. When I was your age, I never missed a Vikings game.
Yeah.
I watched every Sunday. In fact, I watched 4 football games every weekend, 2 college games on Saturday and 2 professional games on Sunday. And I watched Monday Night Football every weekend. You're 20. I'm not even going to say you're in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my 20s, I never missed a football game. See, things change over time. The value of the puzzle pieces, of the chess pieces, change as the game plays. Now I don't have time for football, but I did then. And I remember when I was your age, Michelle Tafoya popped up on the scene as the first female, or one of the first, maybe the first, sideline interviewer that walked up to the wide receiver and said, "What'd you talk about at halftime?" "Well, we didn't play very good in the first half. We didn't execute our plan. Coach got down on us. We recentered, and we come out victorious." And, she was beautiful, and she had those very in-depth, very thoughtful and intellectual interviews on the sidelines of the sports games. Mm-hmm. And she had a 30-year history in sports broadcasting. She worked for all the networks. And I said this on Hebrews. I don't know Michelle Tafoya, and I don't know if she's a good person or a bad person, but one thing I know for sure, the Adam Schwartzy campaign fizzled out because the same people that ran Adam out there looked at Adam and said, "Sorry, Adam, it's not working. We're going to go get somebody else in there." It's the same people. Adam didn't make it. They gave Adam a chance, the SEAL brand. It failed here in Minnesota. So Adam's now off the board, and he's been replaced with somebody with bigger name recognition than Royce White. I mean, people really know Michelle Tafoya. And she looks just like Salazar. Exactly like her. And I'm going to tell you all, if you vote for these kind of people, the hell you will live in, you deserve. Because we're in hell right now, and we got a short window and a very narrow path to get out of the hell we're in. And it requires American citizens to show up at caucus and quit drinking this Kool-Aid because it's poison. I want you to think about what this means. The corporatocracy, what they use, the World Economic Forum, to keep me distracted. Because when I was Tanner's age, I didn't miss a Vikings game. I loved the Vikings. I loved the Twins. I had season tickets to the North Stars, which at that time was the Minnesota hockey team. I was living a normal life. I mean, it was normal. I went to work. I came home. I watched television. I went to bed. Now, because of my background and what I was doing in some of my off hours, I was devoting a lot of time to secret societies. And I wasn't totally brain dead. And at that time, we're talking about the 70s. Man, it was a different deal. We were in a second turning. America was pretty good. I didn't recognize I was going to have to put everything I had in my life into redeeming myself. I didn't recognize that. And Michelle Tafoya popped up, and she was beautiful, and it was the same interview every week. Every week, same interview. And she had a 30-year career working for the broadcast networks, broadcasting sports, which is the primary mechanism of keeping people distracted from politics. Because before there was professional sports, guess what the sports was? Politics. I mean, there was no professional sports leagues at the time of the founding of this country. You know, sport. You don't need sport when you got to fight Indians.
Yeah.
The sport was very real, okay? Or Native Americans, excuse me. A 30-year career working for the networks, a successful career, means you're a sellout of the highest order because you cannot keep those jobs. It does not matter what she says. I'm looking about what she did. I'm looking at a guy like Phil Parrish, who sacrificed everything trying to make change in this state. I mean, really, his reputation. I mean, he gave up his reputation. He stood up on stage and said things that I can't even repeat to Republican Party delegates because he knew the system was rigged. I mean, that's bravery, man. When you give up your social connections and your professional reputation because you're not going to let people bullshit you, that's bravery. I'm just going to say it. You can bleep it out. Urban legend is Phil Parrish stood up on the stage at a Republican Party convention and said to the delegates, and I'm sorry, Phil, I think it's worth promoting at this point. Fuck these people, he said. Because, they were scamming. And then you get Mike Lindell, who gave up everything in pursuit of election integrity. And you got Royce White, who took on the NBA. He didn't sit there and keep a microphone in his face and say what they wanted him to say. He gave up hundreds of millions of dollars to fight the NBA on mental health issues. And then when he won the big three, instead, the Michelle Tafoya came up to interview him and stuck a microphone in his mouth. Hey, how does it feel to win the championship, Royce? And he pulls out a T-shirt and says, "Free the Uyghurs."
Well, I think I've seen that interview.
That's correct. That is the difference of what we're dealing with here. Because if you stand out in the NBA like a Kyrie Irving, or in the NFL, or in the Major League Baseball, and you are a paid player and you say anything off narrative, your career is over instantaneously almost. They might have to drum up some charges like you're an anti-Semite or you're a pedophile, but they're going to get rid of you because who are you working for? You're working for the people that are at that World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. You're working for the people that Donald Trump just went into their sanctuary and defiled it, and Howard Lutnick defiled it, and Scott Bessent defiled it. But that's not the house of God. That's the synagogue of Satan. You're looking at it. That WEF, that. You guys got it wrong now. You think they're talking about some group of Jews praying in a synagogue to the Most High God? No. The synagogue of Satan is right there in your country, your country's leadership. The people you elected just went to that synagogue and turned over the tables of those money changers. And you just watched it on those clips. And what did Michelle Tafoya do for a 30-year career? She represented those people fantastically. And you want to vote for her? I am disgusted by what I'm reading. I'm Dustin Gragey and these people supporting this. And now it's in clear and bold relief for every American citizen, every Minnesota citizen. You got to make a choice. I hope this thing gets clipped out and everybody hates me for saying this. Now, could Michelle Tafoya have a Republican baggage drop and become an American firster? Yes, she could. Everyone, Tom Emmer, all these people, the door has to be open for them. Adam Schwartzy, the door has to be open for a baggage drop where we believe in the tenet of republicanism, and I mean this tenet, the Commonwealth. It doesn't work without the Commonwealth. This income inequality is unsustainable and will lead to revolution in the streets. And we're going to elect Mitt Romney president in 2008. That's who the Republican Party, McCain it's 2012. Right in the middle of the financial crisis, the Republican Party of this country nominates a patrician billionaire to represent our party in the fight against Barack Obama. And in 2008, it was John McCain, and John McCain and Barack Obama are the same person. And if you don't understand that, well, then there's another 200 podcasts coming. We're going to have to keep working on it. But when we, the people, trust these white starched shirt wearing, blue suit wearing, red, white, and blue tie wearing, American flag pin wearing, married my high school sweetheart, graduated from Harvard Law, served in combat. If we keep trusting these people who have been acculturated into this World Economic Forum worldview of Atlanticism and globalism, enjoy the continued life in hell, and it's going to get worse. The only hope I think we have, the only hope I think I have, is when people like me, wretched sinners who have nothing but the clothes on their back and their willingness to die for faith, because everything else has been stripped from them. All I have is my faith in God. I don't have anything else. You put me in that position, I've got nothing to lose. You can't buy me because I've already lost everything, and I know what that feels like. I'm not going down that road again. When we start electing people like this, the unqualified, the unwashed, we have a chance. But we keep putting these perfectly coiffed women. And I was with a dude named Rod Kern, who was a big banger in the Republican Party, and he met with me, and he said, please convince Royce White not to run. I said, why would I do that? Because we need a professional woman, a successful businesswoman to run. And they've been working on her, and they got her. And she's already got the endorsement of Tim Scott, who's leading the National Republican Senatorial Committee. That's the people that pass out the money. And she's going to get all this institutional support by the institution that won't pass the SAVE Act, by the institution that voted for a $38 trillion debt. That's who's supporting her. And she's going to say, like Adam Schwartz, I'm worried about the debt. I'm worried about having fiscal responsibility. Really? If you were, everybody's entitled to a baggage drop and a shot at redemption. I am not a supporter of capital punishment. I'm a supporter of redemption and reconciliation. But I'm also not so stupid as to believe that a professional politician like that Salazar, wasn't she fantastically organized and great looking in her presentation?
Yeah.
We like that. It's scary. It's just scary. It's just scary. I mean, I'm getting to the point these people are starting to be just scary. So I'm going to say that this is a effort not to elect a Republican senator in Minnesota, because I want you to think about this politically, Republicans. They're going to run a Democrat woman, and let's say we endorse Michelle Tafoya. I mean, I don't think it's possible because she's a pro-abortion Republican, and when she hits the outstate people, that's not going to play. And I don't want to get into that conversation. I'm just going to say the backbone of the Republican Party of Minnesota is pro-life, and she's a pro-choice Republican, and that's kind of a sticking point. And guess what? For those of you that support President Trump, she's on video saying, please, President Trump, don't run, before he won in 2024. So if that's the politics, and she's going to say, well, you know, it's changed, and now I support him, kind of like Kristen Robbins and all these people, you know, Tom Emmer, I don't support him, oh, now I do. You know, Norm Coleman, I don't support him, now I do. No, you people are professional bullshitters. I want the people that stand up with a set of principles and are willing to lose because of those principles, because we got nothing to gain going down this road trying to win with a bullshit story. Nothing to gain from lying to win. That doesn't work. We're going to have to grow a backbone and fight for our faith and our freedom. And if we're not willing to do it, hey, live with the results. Live with the results. I'm really disappointed because it's not about her winning. It's about making sure Royce White doesn't win. That's what this is about. These people know who he is. Oh, he's watched. I know I'm watched because I know the threats that I get. And I'm not talking about some strange random person in Minnesota Speaks that goes after me. I'm talking about real threats. And I'm nobody. Royce, we're nobodies right now. But the power structure knows that if Royce White made it into the Senate and had a senatorial microphone, that's real change. Wouldn't you like to live in a country that's really, truly returning to the Republican values of self-reliance, self-governance, and a commonwealth? Isn't that an admirable thing to fight for, even if we lose? Let us not listen to the words electable. That's a scam, because she's not electable. The only way she's electable, I'll tell you how she's electable. The United States government does not get control of the voter rolls here in Minnesota. There is a scam going on with the voting, which is very possible, needs to be proven in a court of law. And guess what? At the World Economic Forum, Donald Trump announced that there was going to be indictments for the scam of the 2020 election. He announced it to the world.
Mm.
Maybe we'll find that clip and play it on the next solo podcast.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
But my point is this. They're going to tell you that the America First candidates are not electable. They're not electable because the power establishment is going to make sure they're not electable. Could you imagine a Phil Parrish being in charge of the government of Minnesota? The way he'd root out the fraud? Man,
quick.
There wouldn't be a scam that would survive his governorship. You put Royce White in the Senate, and he's just going to look at people and say, you're lying. And that's going to get international coverage. These people, you know, it's very prominent, the Senate, but what they do is mostly secret. It's mostly secret. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. I do want to show you how deep this fight goes for once. Before we get into the money, could you just play number 8, please?
It is not a mistake that the reckoning of the entire nation is going to happen here. And so we are asking that you do what it takes to join us on January 23rd. But beyond that, understand that your power is not just with marching. We have economic power. decisions are going to have to be made, especially with our relationship with people whose last names are Bezos, even Zuck, with corporations, that we've made the byword, making a Target run, right? Going to Whole Foods. We're going to have to start making choices, or the choices will be made for us. This is moment time. And if you're not aware, the eyes of the nation are on the state of Minnesota, and people will be joining us and seeing the way that we move. We are showing them better than we can ever tell them right now.
That's Marcia Howard, president of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators. That's who's in charge of teaching your children. And you know what's interesting about that as I listen to that clip? I agree with it.
Yeah, I agree with what
We agree with the diagnosis. I mean, I'm going to probably invite her to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because, of course, she's a Marxist, most likely. Because this January 23rd thing is like a day of rage coming, where there's going to be a strike here in Minnesota, an anti-ICE protest. So she's not on the same side of the football with me. But this idea that this is the center point, that this is the moment that we're going to have to start making choices about the corporations we support, boy, populism.
Talk about that.
Populism. I'm not seeking agreement, Marcia. I'm seeking aligned interests. No, there's going to be Republicans that their heads are going to blow off that I said that. But in a moment when there's a paradigm shift like that, when the globalist paradigm is smashed, hey, jump ball, baby. Jump ball. And I'm just going to tell you, I got a letter from the principal of my son's school, and he's basically said, we're not going to support kids going out and protesting, that kids are here to learn. And we don't want to turn our kids into political pawns, basically. I'm summarizing. That's not what he said. He's got a job. But when he said, if you leave the school, you can't get back in and you're going to be subject to normal discipline, that's Wyzetta. That is a brave principle.
Yeah, he said it best, though, because I was reading this a little bit. He just simply said that a school environment just needs to be politically neutral.
You saw the same letter.
Yeah, I was reading this.
Oh, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
You read it in the script.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that, now there's a sanctuary. A school that's why they go in and shoot up schools, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd like to think that when you send your children to learn how to center and breathe and become connected to the Most High God, it's a sanctuary. That's the model of a school. Now, that's not what we do there. We teach them how to be good economic units to be monetized.
Mm-hmm.
But it still has that sanctuary feeling. And he's maintaining it. He said it should be a neutral environment.
Yeah.
No, it's not a neutral environment, as we can see.
I mean, I know that it rightfully so. It's stressful times and we have a lot to think about. But yeah, I just think about, man, they're kids. They need to just focus on learning.
Learn how to learn.
Learn how
to learn. Now, all of this is made possible by materialism that is untethered from a spiritual life. And I do want to talk about the money to close the podcast, because it's a money system, and that's what's driving all this fraud and all this BS is the money. Please play number 9.
U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
You simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally.
Your ATM is safe. Your banks are safe. There's enough cash in the financial system. And there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve, an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve, an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
TireGet.com, where convenience meets the road. Why make buying tires complicated? With TireGet.com, it's simple. TireGet.com, one site, a few clicks, and the tires of your choice are shipped to an installer right by your house. Well, there you have it, an infinite amount of cash. This is the juxtaposition and the antagonist of, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree, of which I commanded you not to eat. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through toil will you eat of it. All the days of your life, thorns and thistles it will yield for you. And you will eat the plants of the field by the sweat of your brow. So, that's the point. And the counterpoint is unlimited money. That is the true abnegation of faith. Unlimited money. We're not supposed to have unlimited money. We're supposed to work by the sweat of our brow for our daily bread. But hey, that doesn't sound very fun, does it? So you can take that God thing and stick it up your ass, right? Greenspan and Powell and Kashkari. And we're going to pay any bill because we can create wealth. Not earn it. Not use the creativity that is a God-given gift to create something more than what's here. No. We're just going to create BS fiat currency. And when you do that in a system of this size, it opens up every manner of possible fraud. And the World Economic Forum is really dedicated to erasing that idea, the whole technocracy, the whole technology. Because you have listened to the voice of your wife. Okay, there's a charged one to start out with. And have eaten from the tree, a metaphor about seeking to be like God, of which I commanded you not to eat. Because, there's only one God. Don't get so carried away with yourself, which is natural because we have confidence in ourselves. We have consciousness. That's why we go back to the dust now, because we listen to the voice of our wife. What a controversial comment. And have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat. Cursed is the ground because of you. Because of man. Cursed. Through toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it will yield for you. And you will eat the plants of the field by the sweat of your brow. You will eat your daily bread. And it's fenced as a curse. It's actually a blessing. Because how lost we've become believing we can be like gods. And those people at the World Economic Forum, the WEF, they believe in an era where there is no limits to the human being anymore. That's the technocracy. That's the corporatocracy. That's who Michelle Tafoya worked for successfully for 30 years. Let's trust her with the future of my freedom. And if you think I'm not pissed off at these people that are willing to fence this, I am, and I'm going to fight you with everything I've got because I'm fighting for my life, and I know it. And these people that President Trump just embarrassed, their mission is to eliminate anybody who would read that book and then eliminate the book itself. That's their goal. That's their mission. Now, we've known about this as human beings at least since 350 years before the Common Era, which is something like what? 2,350 years ago. Aristotle, in his very important book, Politics, wrote, Book 5, Part 11, again, the evil practices of the last and worst form of democracy. I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to read it slowly for you. Again, the evil practices of the last and worst form of democracy are all found in tyranny. Such are the powers given to women and their families in the hope that they will inform against their husbands, and the license which is allowed to slaves in order that they may betray their masters. For slaves and women do not conspire against tyrants, and they are, of course, friendly to tyrannies and also to democracies, since under them they have a good time. This is a very complex passage, and there's a lot of criticisms that could be foisted upon it. Let's look at the ideas without the DEI just for a second. The evil practices that we're living through right now, of the last and worst form of democracy, where it's 50% plus one equals it's good. Not moral. If 50% plus one person vote for it, it's legal and that makes it good, no matter what it is. That's the last and worst form of democracy. And it's always found in tyranny. Because when you lose any kind of moral center, tyranny is the next step. Such are the powers given to women and their families in the hope that they will inform against their husbands. Well, that is kind of an old formation of this. What Aristotle is talking about is people, slaves and women, that were property. So, of course, those groups will rebel against the power structure. Therefore, tyranny always empowers those groups. And in China, there's a ministry of women. The first thing Mao did when he got control of China in 1949 is he liberated the women. They were property. And the peasants have a star on the flag, the workers. They gave them a star on the flag. Very complicated. I'm not advocating for misogyny or slavery. People have a problem with Aristotle because of this passage, and so do I, the way it's written. But I can get beyond 2,300 years ago and put it into the current context of the use of identity by tyrants to abnegate freedom and faith. And that's what we're living through. And the Jewish identity is used, and we've talked about it. And the black identity is used, and the identity of women, and the identity of Christians. These identities are being used for an output. And the output is a technocracy, which people work for personal gain. Now, this is really all about the money. And now we see that there's this money that's floating around out here that government is getting robbed. How's it getting robbed? It's getting robbed through what we call charitable organizations. Charitable. Doesn't that sound great? It's another misuse of language. Like equity. Equity. Equity used to mean how much money I got. Now it means we all got the same thing. Well, the same people that gave you equity gave you a non-governmental organization, a charitable organization. They're doing charity work. Charity. Who's going to get on the other side of charity? Who's going to get on the other side of an organization called Catholic Charities or Lutheran Social Services? I mean, come on. We get this image of priests standing in soup kitchens and ladling out soup to the poor. And that's what they built on. They used an image. When I say they, I mean very smart people. And I don't mean Democrats and Republicans. Both sides used these charitable organizations. But the Democrats turned it into an art form. And the reason why here in Minnesota the Republicans didn't call this out is because they got their own piece of the pie on this deal. Now it's about half of the pie as compared to the Democrats, but something's better than nothing, isn't it there, Tanner?
Yeah.
That's why this has gone on for so long with these charitable organizations. Let's just take one group that is funding what we would call domestic extremists and or civil unrest advocates. And why do we know about this? Because Scott Bessent has decided, our Secretary of the Treasury, to investigate this money the same way the government brought the mafia down. I'm talking about the Italian mafia. There's another group out here, charitable organizations, nonprofits. $14 trillion of assets are in these companies. $14 trillion. $14 trillion? I thought they were nonprofits. How'd they get $14 trillion? The scam. I mean, all you got to do when a con pops, when the con's over, the con artists are going to run away. We got to turn our attention to the money, okay? All this money's getting disappeared. Trump pops up and he goes, you know what? You people are buying wind mills from the Chinese. He goes, the Chinese don't use them. They just build them for you stupid people. How do you get people to pay for something that doesn't work? Well, you convince them through nonprofit organizations. Educational organizations that spread lies. And now we have domestic extremists and civil rights unrest advocates, and they've spent last year, are you ready? $61 million funding groups that are now going into churches and disrupting the sanctuary. Pro-Hamas and radical Islam nonprofits, they gave $98 million to those groups. That means for pro-Hamas and radical Islamic support and domestic extremists and civil unrest advocates support, this last year is $159 million. Man, I'd like to get some of that money to carry in charge. If you're at the top of those organizations, first of all, if you're at the top passing out the cash, you don't got to get cold. You get paid. There's somebody making $500,000 working for a nonprofit, passing out money to pay for the whistles that they're using here in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
$159 million. And now the Trump administration is investigating this. Now the SBA is investigating $1.2 trillion of payments that are alleged to be fraudulent. Here in Minnesota, there's about 7,000 borrowers representing some $400 million in fraudulent payouts. In Minnesota, everywhere is fraud. Why is everywhere fraud? Are you ready for this, Tanner? Because the Federal Reserve can just print anything they need. See, the root cause. I got all these Republicans that say Royce was with BLM. That's another urban legend. Okay, it's a bullshit story. No, Royce had a peaceful protest in the middle of a chaotic burning of Minneapolis. And where did he go? Not to the police precinct. He went to the Federal Reserve, because the center of this, what allows it, what enables it, is the central banking system. And we got to really focus on, let's bring that dude back. Well, you know, the problem with him was he didn't want to talk about the conspiracy theories. But let's bring him back. Maybe he's ready now, because we're a long way down the road from where that was. Because now we can see the central banks are funding both sides of all this, and in the chaos will emerge the technocracy and the corporatocracy that's represented by the World Economic Forum, which is going to morph into something so friendly to people. And all these people like Carney and Trudeau that work for them, they're going to throw them under the bus. They're going to get prosecuted, but Specter's not going to go away. They're just going to wait. They're just going to wait. Because you know what? I got a shelf life. All these people that are complaining, going, man, I grew up, John Wayne was my model. Robert Mitchum was my model. Kirk Douglas was my model for being a man. You know, you get a bunch of guys like me in a church like that, and those folks come in. And did you notice a lot of women were in the church? That's not an accident. The protesters was a lot of women. That creates a big problem.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Go up and punch a woman? There was more women in the protest, I think, than was at least 50-50. That's not an accident. These people are smart. They know how to, even the people like me that would defend the faith, I'm not going to punch a woman. I'm not going to push a woman. I'm not going to, and in Minnesota, if you go to jail for sure. See, this is how smart these people are. And we haven't even come to grips with, they're funded by an unlimited mountain of cash that's printed by the central banks. The inflation transfers it all upstream to the people that run the WEF, the corporatocracy. And these people are enslaving us. And these people like Tim Scott, that's running the NRSC, that's not the power. He's paid. He's a paid player. Represent John Thune, Senate Majority Leader. 10% Donald Trump. We can't go for that on interest. South Dakota, it's the center of the credit card industry. These people are not running the show. They're representing the people that are running the show. And why is that? Because we didn't show up at caucus and elect somebody endorse somebody who doesn't represent the interest of the corporatocracy. My God. It can't get better until regular, everyday people involve themselves. Do you really want to be ruled by billionaires? Does that turn you on? Are you so dependent? You know, Royce has been using this word cuck for a long time. Are you so cucked out that you're going to continue to consume entertainment instead of getting off your couch and going to caucus and getting involved, learning how to breathe, learning how to empower yourself? You know, you learn how to breathe. You stretch your body out. You start to eat the right foods that are you can't learn what foods to eat from a book. We're all snowflakes. What works for you doesn't work for me. You got to experiment with it. You're overweight. Okay, experiment. You got bloated. You got to experiment. There's no book that's going to give you that answer. You're a child of God. You're unique. Don't let them turn you into a monetizable unit. You gotta explore. And when you explore, guess what you're going to find? If you truly explore, this I can guarantee, if you truly explore your humanity, you're going to find out you're a child of God. But you got to explore. You got to have the bravery, the courage to explore, to let go, to live in silence, to hear voices in your head that scare you, to close your eyes and see images that terrify you. Oh, boy, that doesn't sound very fun. Instead, I'm going to elect people that are going to enslave me through dependency and tell me it's a good deal. Well, we're at the cusp. That woman educator was correct. We're at the center of the fight here in Minnesota, and the fight is right now. So please go to caucus. Please involve yourself in the parties. Please pressure your elected representatives with phone calls and letters. Please come out. Please go to Minnesota Speaks every Thursday night, 7 p.m. in a space on X. Please come to our next community meeting. Please go and support the candidates that are going to possibly die for you, because when you buck this system, it's not a joke, dude and ma'am. It's not a kidding around thing when you stand up and talk truth to power. And I don't mean fake truth to power. Like I was watching Michelle Tafoya. She goes, we just have to stand up to the professional politicians. I mean, it's just crazy. Michelle, just say, I work for these people, and please trust me. They're good people. That's what we need to hear you say. I've worked with these people for 30 years, and I trusted them, and they made me rich, and I want to represent them. Just tell the truth. Please. Please. And Adam, I'm sorry you didn't get the job done. I hope you stay in the race. Don't give up. Don't give up. Why? Because any of us can have an epiphany, and it takes all of this dialogue at this time so we, you and me, can listen to it and find our way to freedom. And on that note, I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. It's going to be cold. We're going to have some big storms. Wow. How cool is that?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool? I love a big storm.
Yeah.
Do you like a big snowstorm?
Yeah, because more snow is snowboard.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So it's always good.
Are you going to go snowboarding?
Probably not this weekend. I can't make it out. But I'm going to Lutzen soon.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that'll be awesome.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah.
Everybody, I want to thank you very much. I know I'm wound up about this because the paradigm is shifting. This is the day globalism died. It's a void. It's going to be what you make it. I want you to think about what I'm saying now. It's not up to any of these politicians. They're just fronting a story, hoping you stay asleep. It's completely wide open for us now. Take the ball. Put me in, coach. It's us. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody.